I'm Kito Fortune, and this is the artist's journey.
We have with us today the amazing Keto Fortune. So, first of all, I'm honored to know you, and I'm honored to have crossed paths with you. Um, so, Keto, he's been on Button Poetry.
Yeah.
He's been on. I just looked it up too. It was on. It's in California.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Poetry.
The Poetry Lounge.
The
Yeah,
Poetry
that's my home.
Lounge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So, yeah. So Keto, he's been around on many platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and Fox Soul. You were on
Yeah.
that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's a pleasure to have you on our show, and
Yeah.
we are grateful for you. And you are a great person in the community, and you're also a great friend of ours too. So, into it. So first of all, so can you read your what's on your tea bag again?
Okay, yeah. It says you can measure the love you bring to each day by the joy you experience in each moment.
Wow. Did that hit you a little bit?
It's interesting. I'm, it's one of those things where it's like I'm reading it and I'm trying to figure out if I believe this is true or not. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I think it's a nice idea,
Yeah.
um, but some moments don't have any joy to experience in them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And to say that that also equates to the amount of love that you bring into the day, you know, I don't know if I agree. Even though it sounds like a nice thing, I don't
It
know if I
sounds like
agree.
a good idea, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think, don't get me wrong, I think that people that express their joy like loudly for everybody to see, it's good. It gives life to the room and all that kind of stuff. That's great, but like just because a person's not doing that doesn't mean that they're not, you know,
Mhm.
bringing love into the beginning of
Right.
the day, or bringing love to the spaces they come into. So
Right.
that's interesting.
Yeah, because life is real. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be in that emotion. Like, sometimes you have to be in whatever emotion you're feeling
Right.
to get through it. You can't
Right.
fake it with joy. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting interpretation of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, my favorite poem by you is Small Ting and also Black Jesus.
Yeah.
Cause that's those like well all your pieces are powerful, but
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So and one thing that I like about this poem is that you bring us with you in Guyana and you bring
Mm-hmm.
us right there in your story with your grandmother and we go through a journey through the imagery that you create with your words and
Mm-hmm.
your emotion and your voice
Mm-hmm.
all like the sound of your voice, your presence,
Mm-hmm.
and the imagery that you put in your poem creates like a it's like a universe or a portal that you open up and carry
Dope.
us in and we're there with you,
Mm-hmm.
and what is your writing process or do you have a writing are you a person who are you a poet, excuse me, are you the poet who writes like write out the thought and then move it around and arrange it later, like as it
Oh
goes,
yeah.
or are you like
Uh-huh.
did you have a concept or a story, like sparked what sparks your poetry usually, like what's your creative process in writing?
Okay. So I most of the time when I'm writing, it's from like a place of inspiration.
Yeah.
Like something happens, a conversation that I have, a movie that I watch, a song that I listen to, a real life experience, whether big or small, that kind of like um triggers a conversation. So or triggers a thought that I need to work through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um um Unfortunately at the moment I'm not in therapy, so like although I have been before,
Yeah.
but poetry is kind of a way that I like process things sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So in that poem in particular, I'll use that one as the example. Like I had a conversation with um with somebody I was dating at the time. And she kind of pointed out that like that she noticed in moments where like um where she was trying to feel something, she really wanted me to be in the moment and feel the thing. And my first instinct is, well, first of all, can we fix it? Right?
Mm.
And even if we're not trying to fix it, there's only like so much grace that I had. You know
Right.
what I mean? And we were actually talking about it a little bit earlier, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you can only give so much grace to the people around you if you're not giving that grace to yourself. And like we kind of talked about it in the moment, um, and uh, like I ended up tracing it like kind of all the way back to
Wow.
like my origins, like because it is a thing that like when if you anybody who is Caribbean or really anybody with immigrant parents, I would put us all kind of like in that group where there's like this mindset of like we have to survive capitalist America. You
Right.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
And in that endeavor to survive this place, we don't have room for like you to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have room for you to be sick. We don't have room for you to be for anything, besides grind, 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 grind. And that's from when we were children. And my parents not only like pushed that on us, but they they embodied it themselves, and I talk about that in the poem too. Um, so I'm working through all those feelings. And in terms of like the writing process, I write. I'm one of those people that write very linear. Like, like I have the idea in my head of maybe where I want to go sometimes, but I have to have like my first like set of lines,
Mm-hmm.
right, to really get the poem going. And then as it going, I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And then I might have an idea of something that's like it's cool, and I'll write that, but I'm like, nah, not yet, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
push it down, or
Mm-hmm.
like, and then when I have the poem finished, I might be like, okay, what does this need? Then the editing process is like completely different. Then I'm looking like, okay, where does this poem need like more details? Am I telling this story clear enough? Is there like rising and falling action in the poem in terms of like
That's why storytelling. Yeah.
transitioning like one moment to the next moment instead of just like blazing, the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in that poem in particular, like my first thought is like painting the picture of like what my parents grew up in, specifically like my dad, what he grew up in. He's from Guyana. Um, like I say in the poem, he has 8 brothers and sisters. His dad passed away when he was 13, and he's the second oldest. So, like, he pretty much, him and his older brother, like, pretty much took on the mantle between the two of them and their mom of, like, raising this family. You know what I mean? Um, and, and, my dad was born 54, so this is like the 60s in Guyana.
Mm.
This is um from when the lights go out, when the when the sun goes down. That's it. You know what I mean? If you don't get
Mm-hmm.
certain things done in the morning, right,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get done. And if those things don't get done, we don't get to eat, or we don't get to make the trade for the day, or we don't get like literally their survival was that every day. You know what I mean? And it was very much so like an up in the air, figure it out day to day thing. So when my dad comes here and he's raising children and he's like, yo, I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and coming home at 12 and getting up the next day to do it again, right? Like that is pushed into your mind, right? And then we are like, okay, cool. So like even when it comes to us in school, it's like, oh, you have a sniffle? You think you're gonna not go to school because of a sniffle? You think you're not gonna? I can't even tell my dad. Imagine me going to my dad and being like, "Yo, man, I worked 5 straight days, 5 straight 8-hour shifts every day, and I'm tired. I need a vacation." You think I could talk to that man about that? No. So if you don't have that kind of grace for yourself, how does somebody else who is experiencing something, right?
Yeah.
Who, let's be real, and let's also like address the fact that like in reality, no human should be working like that. That should be the standard in terms of like your mental health, your physical health. Nobody should have to work like that. So if that's the way that he had to do it in order for us to be here, you know, where we are now, and I'm so appreciative of it because now I have the option to choose to be like, hey, I'm deciding to be an artist and I'm living my life this way. If he had not made that choice, I don't get to make this choice. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, it's a it was a weird kind of balance to strike, and that poem was all just about like exploring that experience and like in the process trying to find the words to make sure that translates to the audience, that nobody, I don't want people to end that poem like judging my dad because he works too hard. Fuck out of here. That's not what this is for. Sorry, can I?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
please.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's not what this is for. This is not for you to like to. It's not even a thing of like, oh, for that particular poem for us to like break down like the whole machismo thing, because it doesn't even have, in this particular scenario, it doesn't really have to do with that. It's deeper than all that. It's at what point do I take the lessons that I learned from my parents on and use them because that's how we got here, and at what point do I have to decide, hey, because you did what you did, I don't have to do that. And the blessing of you doing what you did is that I don't have to do that, and that I have time to, hey, go to therapy because that's what I need, right? I have time to rest on days when I need it. The fact that I even work at, or have worked at the kind of jobs where I can hit up my supervisor and be like, yo, I need a personal day because I need it. Because I need it. And there's no explanation beyond that required. And taking the opportunity to do that when you know, the generations before me did not have that luxury. I feel like I just talked a lot, but yes.
That was beautiful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Healing generational curses, you know.
Yeah.
And like you're a new generation. You're opening up a whole new chapter.
Right.
You know. So and that's exciting and scary and like it's different and it's you know, you're an artist, you
Yeah.
know, and you have a story, you have a lineage, you know, and you share that really well. So along with your poetry, you have music to
Yeah.
complement some of your poems, and you play the electric guitar. So what started you to play the electric guitar? Like, what got you into playing the electric guitar?
Okay, so it's interesting because I actually started out first playing the bass because really what it was is that I knew so many people that played guitar and I wanted to be different. So I was like, I'm not gonna play the guitar. I'm gonna play the bass because you know. And I still love the bass as an instrument, but like it just, man, I feel like I invested way more time into getting good at the bass because my thought was I want to be good, right? And it didn't, the instrument never felt like home to me, right? Even like the way that you think as a bass player is completely different,
Wow.
like than the way that you think as a guitar player.
Really?
And
I didn't know
I
that.
would think that when I think about it now, I even think that when I was playing bass, I was still playing it with a guitar player's mindset, and it's not really the job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like I stopped playing pretty much. Literally, it's funny because when I wrote my first poem, that was pretty much the last time I ever played the bass. Like, because I was like, oh, this is my thing. You know what I mean? So I started writing, and I was doing that for a long time. And then I actually bought my guitar literally as just like I love blues music.
Yeah.
You know, and I love guitar solos and emotional music. So really, I did it like initially as like something to like, I wanted to be able to come home at the end of a long day and just like express myself, right? And it's interesting because poetry fills that niche too, but like as I started getting more like into poetry and wanting it to be like good and all the techniques, it kind of requires more of you than
Yeah.
just like, this is the sole purpose of this is just to get it out. You know what I mean? So I started doing that, and then uh, I heard "To Pimp a Butterfly," um, and
That song, yeah.
I was listening to the
It's a good song.
one of my favorite songs on the album is I love myself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and there's in the album version, there's a point where he's performing this song. It's like a live recording of it, right? And then I guess like a fight breaks out in the crowd, and he stops everybody, and he's like, "Yo, what's going on? Da, da, da. Like, we're not gonna do this here. Da, da, like, this is not the space for that, you know." Da, da, da. And he goes on like this rant and kind of like resets the crowd, right? And then in the midst of that, he kind of goes before he restarts the set. He goes into this poem that he had written. First of all, I mean, he's a rapper, so you assume that maybe he dabbled in poetry at some point, but you
Right.
don't consider Kendrick a poet. But the fact that he had this thing just ready because that's what the audience needed, it kind of opened up my eyes to
Hmm.
like, yo, if I'm doing this artist thing, I want I want that whatever the audience needs at that moment, that I can touch in that,
Mm.
right? So if at that time, just like how when I'm expressing myself at the end of a long day, just to get to the guitar and get the feelings out, sometimes the audience doesn't need you up in their face like yelling at them. Sometimes they need something to kind of like set a tone, or to like, or we are over here having fun for a second, and music has a way of transitioning you or setting you in a feeling before anything even starts, before a word is said, before a lyric is sung. The music sets a tone, and I wanted to be able to like do that with poetry, and that's really where I started like merging the two together, because I just feel like music is like, it's a conduit, and now I'm at a place where I just feel like, you know, every poem has a song out there in the ethos for it, and vice versa. Every song has a poem that could be written for it. You
Hmm.
know, so that's where I started doing the music stuff.
Yeah, I can see that too because music has a way of bringing. It has a way of setting a frequency. Yeah, yeah. Your tea. You're drinking the ginger. I think is it ginger lemon?
Yeah, it was a
Ginger
ginger
turmeric.
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 Yeah.
Ginger
Mm-hmm.
turmeric. Yeah, both good for your immune system.
Yeah.
Yeah, but music has a way of it has a way of bringing people together, has a way of setting a tone and a vibration
Mm-hmm.
along with your words. So as a poet, a lot of when you write poetry, you're writing an intention. You have an intention and like you have an intention in mind for that poem piece. It's not like you're not just creating music just to create something to have someone dance to
Right.
all the time. So it usually come from like a story place or something you want to get off your chest or something that you was spoken to by the creator God, and you
Yeah.
have to like your body and your voice is being used as a vessel. And sometimes when you speak with words and no music, it could go deaf to some ears because they're not listening for they're not looking for poetry.
Yeah.
But music, adding the element of music allows for a poet's voice to go further because people can relate to the music. Oh, I like this beat, I
Yes.
like this
Yes.
sound, and then people are more inclined to listen, and then your message is more likely to reach more people just by adding the element of music to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we live in a celebrity obsessed culture, as
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And with the constant access and use of social media, it's easy to get discouraged about your growth as an independent artist who is doing everything by themselves and sometimes with a limited budget and with limited connections. So, what advice do you have for other independent artists starting their careers?
Mm. That is that's a very good question, and it's uh maybe there are some humans out there who have gotten to the point where they've transitioned past those worries. I very much live in those,
Yeah.
like um, almost daily.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, Word to what we were talking about before. You know, like there is a pressure that also comes along with these people that made sacrifices for you, and that pressure is to, hey, we should never be back to a place where we are in poverty again. We
Right.
should never be back in a place where we are struggling because we made that sacrifice, right? What you do needs to go the next step up. And that's just harder to see when you're as an artist because there's no set path. It's not like, oh, I went to high school and then I went to college and then I went to med school and now I'm a doctor and that means money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's no path like that
Yeah.
when it comes to being an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say um I am learning more and more that uh just to not be focused on that. That's just not that
Mm-hmm.
part is really sounds crazy, but it's really not your concern when we're talking about from the creative standpoint. Because what'll happen is if you're focused on that, when you're on the creative part, when it's your time to be creating, it gets very hard to do the thing because now you're thinking about, oh well, is this gonna be the thing that's gonna get me the money, or is this gonna be the thing that people are gonna identify with that'll make people follow me that will get me the money, right? So I can just live and survive and and be able to keep doing this. Um, I it's a very hard balance to strike, but like that's not your job.
Yeah.
Your job is you are an artist. That wasn't chosen for you. That's who you are,
Mm.
right? And because you're an artist, you have a responsibility to create the thing that is in your spirit. Like, because if you don't make it, it's not going to get done. You know what I mean? If you don't put it out there, nobody's going to hear it. And especially if I'm speaking to somebody who wants to be an artist for a living and has been trying to do this for a while, you've already seen the fruits of what happens when the person who needs to hear your work hears your work, and the person who experiences it, the lives that get affected, the artists that are created from the art that you made. You've already seen that. That is your only responsibility. Like all the other stuff is great, but when you focus on like what your responsibility is in terms of like being somebody who creates, um, and then shares that with the world, it eases that burden off of you because it's like, yeah, those things for me, it's trust in God. Like that's not my business. I put that in God's hands. You handle that part. My part is the creative part that He put me here to create, and that's my job. Um, and everything beyond that is a blessing. But you know, I would venture even to say that even if that part never comes for me in terms of like, oh, where I can exclusively do just art and live in a mansion or whatever, you know, even if that part never comes for me, I've done my job. My purpose is to create. And I think just focusing in on that part for now has eased that burden from me. Um, yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope that helped anyone that needed to hear that because that's the truth. Having an idea, knowing who you are, and then just playing your role, and just having faith, and just playing. Knowing who you are. That's the important thing. What is the biggest challenge that you faced as an independent artist?
Literally what I just talked
I
about.
know. Okay,
That's
you don't
that's
have to. Yeah.
that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
That is literally the
Yeah.
hardest part. It's nice for me to say it.
Yeah.
It's another thing for me to um to do it. Understanding your worth. Um, uh, as you grow in the art, another thing that has been difficult sometimes is I know my worth. I've grown in this art. At this point, I've been doing poetry for it'll probably be like 12 years. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, around 12 years, 13 years. Started when I was 21. I'm about to be 34. So, um, growing in it, knowing the work and the investment and stuff like that that you've put in to improve, and like, um, striking the balance between staying humble but also knowing your worth. Like, I'm not trying to like I'm not trying to come off a certain way when I say this is what my work is worth, right? If specifically in scenarios where like, hey, there's a payment for what I'm doing, this is what my work is worth because I've put this amount of time and energy and work into it, and this is the value of it, right? But also like being able to translate that while also like being humble and being like, hey, you know, the artists are not trying to come off like a certain way, like, oh well, it's like, yeah, but it doesn't really have to do any of that. The facts are the facts, you know. Um, that balance is very hard to strike, but it is something that will come to you when you need it
Yeah.
too. Because when you also when you're in a situation where it's like, okay, I am living off of my art, and I this is capitalist America,
Mhm.
and I need, right, in terms of like survival,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden those conversations get easier because like yeah, sometimes I have to tell people no, I can't do that because this is what it's worth. This is what it's worth. You know what I mean? And uh, you know, some people might feel a kind of way about that sometimes, but it's like that nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, throughout the hardships, what would you say that your strength is? Like, what, how, from where you grown from when you were 21, from when you started, and you continuously walking this path of being a poet and not letting off. What strengths have you grown as in this artistry from the beginning to today?
Strengths. Um. Okay. So I would say two parts. On the one hand, like the I would say I came into artistry like with this strength, but it is something that is like expanded more. It's like for me, it's like community building, like connecting to people, talking to people, um, uh, uh, meeting other artists where they're at, and um, and also not being afraid to ask for advice or direction or any of those things. You know, I think that is something that has grown like over time, um, and I kind of came into it with it, and then I would say the major strength that has grown from me being an artist is just like the power of vulnerability. Like I'm a person that is known to walk around saying like vulnerability is my superpower. Like it has helped me in every aspect of my life. But it started from building there. I actually remember because one of my slam team members when I was early in writing, you know, like at that time I'm like a young writer. I'm around like a lot of poets that are like more experienced than me, and like I'm showing promise, you know what I mean? um and because like I have like a theater background, and my dad also is a performer, so like being an orator or being up in front of on a stage, all that kind of stuff has never been an issue for me, and I leaned heavy on that early as an artist, right? But my homie, her name is Jessica Salgado. She's an incredible poet. If you don't know her, you should absolutely check her out. At one point, she told me, she was like, "You know that your power is not in your voice, right?" She's like, "Your power is in your vulnerability," and she's the first person to voice that to me. I think every other person, when they were hearing my poetry, it would be like, "Oh well, like you're good with manipulating the language, or like the rhyme schemes, or you know the imagery and all that kind of stuff." And she was the first person to tell me like, "This is where it is. The fact that you are willing to like share parts of yourself that other people are not willing to share." Um, and I feel like when I started leaning into that part of myself more, I think my my writing went to another level. My uh, I was educating for a long time when I was in LA, teaching poetry and music. My ability as a teacher like went to another level because it's like I cannot ask you to share, even as an audience member, to connect with what I'm doing and to open up and to hear what I have to say if I'm not opening up on stage. If I'm just on stage, just like bar 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 bar, you know what I mean? Cause I'm good at it. I'm like that. You know what I mean? It's cool, but that'll only get people to open up so much, right? If they can tell from the time you're on stage that like you're giving the opportunity to to be ridiculed, to be accused, to be judged, right? All of those things, like it gives people the feeling to be like, oh well, maybe I can like open up to what I'm hearing and explore that in myself, and I think that's contagious. You know, it you know when you are watching or listening to a song, you go through a process of like, even when you're hearing the song and you're emotional, right? The block that's there is like, am I going to be vulnerable enough to like really sit in this and not be distracted by some? I think we've talked about this before too, like listening to music while being distracted by so many things, right? Like it's a certain amount of vulnerability that it takes to sit in it and to feel all the places that the music is going to take you, or the movie, or the painting, or whatever it is. I think it's contagious, and art has 100% been like the biggest vehicle for that, being like a change in my life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What other projects are you currently working on right now?
Ooh. Okay. So I am working on a collaborative project, and uh, right now I'm being very protective of that project. But
That's understandable.
please, like, follow. It's not gonna be super far away, but I'm working on it. But I right now I feel the need to be like protective of it because I am guilty of talking too much too early all the time, and I just want to protect this thing because I want it to be what I want it to be.
Protect it, protect it.
Yeah,
But I'm glad you're making new art and
yeah.
So one thing I want to compliment you on is your outfit. Your outfit,
Alright.
your outfit is always bomb. You have
Appreciate
your
it.
own style. You have your own authentic look.
Hmm.
And my question to you is, how do you coordinate your clothes? Do you draw inspiration from um, fashion designers, or do you follow fashion trends, or do you create your own? Do you just create from an authentic artistic place? Because to fashion is a form of art in itself.
Yeah.
It's a different type of art,
Yeah.
but you're still using your creative brain, your creative
Yeah.
thinking, and you coordinate your clothes, and everyone has a different style. And your style is cultural, and
Mm.
but it's also hip, and it's also it's you. It's authentic to you. So
Yeah.
how do you coordinate your clothes? Do you have a method, or do you just
This is so weird. I'm not used to this. Yeah, that has for sure been a journey for me. When I was younger, I was flood pants. Never had the hip shoes. Never had those things. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not something. It's just not something that was a focus for the people that were taking care of me. Rightfully so, because we needed to eat. Like
Right.
those are
Right.
those are important things. You know. Um, but like as I got older, especially like in my preteen and teenage years, it's something that I wanted. Like I wanted to be able to look good. I wanted to, and it just never felt like I got it right. And then around, I want to say like high school age, I was a big part of the uh, what do we call it? Like the black skater movement with the mind you, I can't skate for shit, but but I had like the skinny jeans and like the little belt buckle and the super
That
tight
was a look
shirts.
back then.
It
That
was a
was
look.
it. That
And
was a
listen,
look.
listen. I know people be looking back and be ashamed, right? But I stand by all those fashion choices. I stand by my fake lenses that I had. You know what I mean? I didn't wear glasses,
Yes.
but I had them on.
Yes.
I thought it looked fresh,
Yes.
right? And I still think it looked fresh. However, there was like one disconnect that was there, and it's that it was very uncomfortable. Like I'm a healthily built human being. You know what I mean? Which is one way to say it. You know, and like certain like the way my calves and my thighs and everything like that is set up. Skinny jeans is not for me, big dog. Like just comfortability wise,
Right.
it looked good,
Yeah.
to me. But it was
Yeah.
like it was a decision that I made every day. To like
Right.
I'm gonna be uncomfortable in order to look good, right? And that was the thing. I think the way that I dress now is 100% based in what I think is dope and what I think is comfortable. So like it kind of started with like me buying some literally it was the pandemic. I'm scrolling through it and I keep seeing like, Instagram knows I'm a nerd, so they keep sending me like these like samurai or like ninja pants and they keep showing it up. And one day I was just like, man, like let me just buy these. You know what I'm saying? Right? So I just bought the pants and I'm just like I never felt so comfortable. And in my mind, like I'm like, okay, yeah, I know this is different. This is not really. Some people see it and they're like, oh, those are MC Hammer pants, and I'm like, yeah, but they're flowy and they're comfortable. And I don't know how to do a roundhouse kick, but if I did, it would be vicious right now because I can actually get my leg up. But yeah, it kind of started from there, and then just other things like me uh, being like Guyanese or black. So I'm like, okay, well, I want certain things that are like that feel like African culture, and I want certain things that kind of go with like the big samurai pants because I'm a nerd. So I'm like, I love Japanese culture, and I love like I'll put on like kimonos and my Afro pick and you know just like all the things that I think look dope. And like honestly, I wish I could go back in time and just have had that mindset when I was a teenager. Because even during that time, like I said, I was on the skinny jean movement before everybody else. So at first, people were like weird, and then one Christmas passed, and all of a sudden, I see people showing up in skinny jeans. I'm like, ain't that crazy? You know what I mean? But like I said, even then, I think it was still based off of what I saw on somebody else that I thought looked cool, and like trying to be that instead of like, well, what do you think is dope? Like, when you were a kid and you just wore Spider-Man t-shirts because you like Spider-Man. And like I kind of got away from that, and I feel like I'm back in that space. And also shout out to my sisters and my family because they know fashion. So like if I'll have like things. I'll just buy things that I think are dope, or somebody will buy something for me that they know I think was dope. But I don't always know how to put it together. So listen, shout out to my sisters because I'll be like, hey, y'all know what colors go together and what don't. So does this? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And then sometimes they'll be like, nope, and I'll be like, yeah, but I like it. So
That's cool. How many sisters do you have?
I have two sisters, and I have a stepsister as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It's good to have someone to give you fashion advice.
Shout out to them. They wasn't helping me out when I was little though. They was letting me I don't
Just
know.
let you be.
Yeah, they was just letting me be out here dusty, but praise God they helped me out as a grown man. I'll take it.
Nice. Nice.
They not gonna like that.
Well, thank you so much for coming over here and having some tea with us.
Of course.
It's been a
It was good.
pleasure.
It was really good.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. We hope to have you over again.
Yeah.
Yes. So, with that being said, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Artist Journey. This is Kito Fortune, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.